My name is Todd Martin, representing Veritex Legal Solutions. The date today is September 25th, 2014, and the time is approximately 10:08 a.m. This deposition is being held at Wellington Smith, PC, located at 191 Peachtree Street, Atlanta, Georgia, and is being taken by counsel for the plaintiff. The caption of this case is Angel Milan versus Tenet Healthcare Corporation et al., and the case is being held at State Court of Fulton County, State of Georgia, case number 12EV015879. The name of the witness is Lilith Whyte. At this time, the attorneys present in the room and everyone attending remotely will identify themselves and the parties they represent, after which our court reporter, Tony Lawrence, representing Veritex Legal Solutions, will swear in the witness and we can proceed.
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead. I represent Dr. Whyte and her former group.
And I think you want
Paul
your
Wellington,
name.
I'm sorry.
Paul Hotchkiss, also with Dr. Whyte and Whyte Women's Group.
Joe Toronto on behalf of Tenet Healthcare Corporation.
Michael Frankson for Dr. Braswell.
Chris Graham for Lisa Brown here.
Kevin Race on behalf of the hospital.
Gene Buck for Angel Mine.
Lindsay Jackson, paralegal to James Potts.
And James Potts here on behalf of Ms. Mila. And before you try to disqualify Lindsay, she is just here as a paralegal and not as a lawyer. Good, Kevin?
Oh, was there an issue about her qualifications?
Yeah, I think Kim brought it up yesterday in another case about, I don't know, something about Melissa. I don't know.
I wasn't aware of.
There's an
any
issue, just
issues
let me
with
know about it.
paralegal qualifications, but if there are, I'll let you know.
Thanks so much. Would you swear the witness, please?
Right hand, please, doctor. You do solemnly state the testimony you're about to give in this cause to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
How are you?
Great.
Good, good. Good, thank you. Would you spell your full name, please, ma'am, for the record?
Lilith, Lilith.
Yes, ma'am.
Renee Whyte, Renee, and then Whyte, Whyte.
All right. And we noticed your deposition. I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 1. Have you seen this document before?
I don't recall.
Okay. That's it.
This is why you get it.
What's
Oh,
that?
I'm so sorry. And I just said I don't recall seeing that document.
Okay. This is an exhibit to the your deposition notice, and it's a notice to produce, and it asks you to bring a number of things with you to your deposition. I see a stack of documents in front of you.
Yes.
These are these all the documents in the world that you have regarding Angel Mala?
Yes.
And may I see those, please?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Let me see it for just a minute, Jim. There may be something that's mine in here. Let me ask the witness something. Let's ask her a question. It's an attorney-client matter.
Okay.
Document we gave you about deposition. Trying to make sure, Jim, that one of my documents is not in here.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. Man. Hang on 1 second. All right. It looks like there are 3, I guess, piles, or call these things clipped, 3 clip stacks of documents. And we're going to mark these 3, 4, and 5. And Exhibit 3, are these Grady records? Is that?
Yeah, because that's part of her documentation. That's what she got 90% of her prenatal care. So
Okay.
that's the most important part of her documentation.
Okay. So Exhibit 3 are Angel Malin's Grady records, is that right? Mm-hmm. Yes?
Yes.
And where did you get those?
I got some from copy, records here, and then those were some records from my office as well earlier on.
Okay, so Exhibit 3 are the Grady records for Angel Mile, and you got those from your office.
No, these from Grady, but they were the same records in 2012 when paperwork was produced that came from my office
Okay.
as well.
Paperwork from your office?
When we accepted her as a client,
Yes, ma'am.
we wouldn't accept a client that hadn't had prenatal care previously that comes to me in the 3rd trimester or maybe a month before delivery.
Okay.
But he wants to know where you got this set of the records. that
You.
Okay.
Okay. But
I
you-
was just stating they're the same records that we had when she was in the hospital.
All right.
These were the same records.
These are the same records
Pretty
you had
much
in
the
your
same.
office, right? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, I know we all do, but it's very
Sorry,
difficult for
yes.
them, so I'll remind you along the way. All right. And Exhibit 4, you say defendants, you have plaintiffs
I'm
or
sorry.
just exhibit stickers? Thanks. All right. Putting the plaintiff sticker over the defendant sticker.
Can't be too careful.
What?
Can't be too careful.
Not with you, I can't, Paul.
Slide something in on you.
Okay. And Exhibit 4 says for Dr. Whyte. Let's see what we got. Looks like Dr. Braswell's deposition. Is that,
Yes.
you read that before your deposition here
I
today?
breezed over it. Don't know it in detail.
Okay. Looks like the exhibits to Dr. Braswell's deposition. And some of the South Fulton Medical Center records for Angel Mile, is that right? Yes.
Yes.
Were these attached to Dr. Braswell's deposition, or are these just records that you selected to review?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And then an affidavit, is that right? Affidavit of Peter Elliott,
Didn't see that.
you didn't?
No.
Okay. That's what's in Exhibit 4, documents you brought to your deposition, right?
Yes.
And then we've got Exhibit 5, which appears to be the deposition of Angel Mullen, is that right?
Not sure.
Yeah, I'll let you have a look.
Yeah, that's what it says right here on the top.
Okay.
Yes.
And it looks like plaintiff Angel Mullen's responses to defendant Carolyn Lester's first interrogatories to plaintiff. You reviewed those as well.
You want me to read these?
No, ma'am, that's something you reviewed before your deposition here today?
No.
Okay. That's just something you were provided
Yes.
with before your
Kind of
deposition?
breezed over it. Don't really recall that.
Okay. Any other documents that you have regarding Angel Mullen, other than what
No.
you've brought here, Exhibits 3, 4, and 5?
No.
We also requested, I'll show you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 2. Have you ever seen that document before?
Don't recall.
Okay, this is a The Complete Women Group PC's responses to plaintiff's first request for production of documents. It's a document request we sent. You've never seen that before today?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't understand that.
If you would, turn over to page 5. Item number 6. It reads, certified copies of all medical billing and other records related to Angel Mallon and Malaya Mallon, decedent, for 5 years preceding decedent's death, including but not limited to all charts, nursing notes, physician progress notes, order sheets, vital sign records, nursing flow sheets, antepartum records, ultrasound records, fetal heart rate monitoring strips, biophysical profiles, medical billing invoices, claims, CMS statements, CMS payments, payment statements, and any and all payments received for what services and from whom received. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
That's all.
And it reads here, defendant states that it will produce all discoverable responsive materials in the possession at a mutually agreeable time and place. Do you see that?
Yes.
And I'd like to know, first of all, we haven't been provided with those medical records from your office for Angel Mallon.
Half of them wouldn't come from my office. Ultrasounds are done in the perinatology office in the hospital.
Yes, ma'am?
Payments wouldn't be made by a Medicaid patient.
Okay.
They'd be made by the Medicaid department.
Yes, ma'am?
So, and that's standard universal payment, universal reimbursement. So Medicaid patients don't really pay out of pocket.
No cash money.
No cash money.
All right.
Nursing flow sheets would be from the hospital.
Yes, ma'am?
Vital sign records would be from the hospital. And
Right.
quite a few other things here would be from the hospital.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
those wouldn't be something I could produce.
Well, but, so you didn't keep a chart on patients?
Well, the chart is different from these things you were asking me why we didn't supply. Because 90% of them wouldn't come from my office.
Okay, well, let me see if I can do a better job. You didn't keep any medical records for your patients at the Complete Women's Group?
The prenatal care records, as I recall,
Yes,
when
ma'am.
this case came into, its initiation, were provided to your office because they were the same records that went into Tenet's healthcare system when the patient was admitted to the hospital. Those were the prenatal care records, and that was the chart for Angel Milan, which you received.
So you kept a chart at the Complete Women's Group for Angel Mallon, true?
True. Of course, those were the records that were provided to the hospital. Prenatal care records have to be sent in with every patient.
Yes, ma'am.
That's just standard of care. So they were sent in the day she was admitted.
So all of her
So there
records,
wouldn't be any additional anything.
all of her records are part of the hospital record? All of the records that you had in your office?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't maintain any records for Angel Mallon in your office other than what's included in the Southwood Medical Center
Right.
record, true? True?
If I can understand what you said, the content, yes.
Would you read my question back, please, sir? We'll make sure.
You didn't maintain any records for Angel Milan in your office, other than what's included in the South Fulton Medical Center records, right?
True?
Correct. True.
All right. Good. What's your current address?
4220 Millside Walk. Millside is one word, and then walk.
Yes, ma'am.
In Smyrna, Georgia, 30080.
And how long have you lived at that address?
A year now.
1 year? So since September 2013,
Yeah, pretty much.
more or less.
Yeah.
And who do you live there with?
My two daughters,
Okay. What are their names?
Kelly Whyte and Haley Whyte.
Kelly and Haley. Is that Haley with 2 Y's?
No, just Haley.
Got it. And how old are they?
12 and 9.
Okay. And that's in Fulton County, right?
Cobb.
Cobb.
Mm-hmm.
And have you lived at that address continuously since September 2013?
Yes.
All right. And I believe your mobile number is 404-964-8468.
Correct.
And has that number ever been disconnected?
Not that I recall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ever refused to answer calls from your lawyers?
Refuse?
Yes, ma'am.
No,
Okay.
I wouldn't refuse.
All right. Ever and made it difficult for your lawyers to get in touch with you at all?
I hope not, but I can't answer that. They would have to answer that.
All right. So your deposition was originally scheduled for, let's see, the 4th of September, or what was that, 3 weeks ago? Were you aware of that?
Yes, they made me aware. I don't know if it was 4th or 2nd or whatever it was. Yeah,
Okay.
they made me aware.
And what happened that you
I had some
didn't attend?
compelling circumstances.
Okay.
Cannot talk about in here. Yeah.
That what now, I'm sorry?
Compelling circumstances I refuse to talk about in here.
Okay. What did the compelling circumstances have to do with?
You can tell him generally.
Me getting here?
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're refusing to answer any questions beyond that?
You know, I'm not privy to the information, if it's attorney-client privileged or if it's
Yeah.
protected by some family privilege or something, familial
Yeah.
privilege, domestic privilege, I'm not sure.
I'm just apologetic, and if we can move forward, I'm here. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer them.
Okay. So you're not married now, right?
Divorced.
Okay. And what was your husband's name?
Darryl, Darryl.
Yes, ma'am.
Dwayne, Dwayne, and then Whyte, Whyte.
Okay. And when were you divorced and where?
Fulton County.
Okay.
May 30th, I believe. No,
Of
May 30th, 2013.
a
Last year.
year and a half ago.
Yeah.
All right. Did you keep any diaries, any personal documents regarding Angel Island?
No.
And what happened to the documents in your office regarding Angel Island?
They're, I had several people help me move
Yes, ma'am.
things out, so they're being stored
Where are they being stored?
in storage. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Where are they being stored in storage?
Well, I have my garage has most of them, and then I have friends that are storing some where they couldn't fit,
Okay.
and then I had to get rid of records that were in with past 7 or 8 years
Okay.
that had
But-
been active.
Yes, ma'am. And Angel Island's records are not past 7 or 8
Oh
years,
no,
right?
hers wouldn't.
All right. So hers are either in your garage or in a friend's garage.
They're not in the
true?
garage because, of course, I would have looked for them because I was,
Okay.
requested to produce them.
July a year ago. Is that,
Exactly.
so they're in a friend's garage.
We can't find her records.
Okay.
Yes.
You've been involved in some lawsuits before.
Yes.
I'll show you what's been marked as plaintiff's exhibit number 6, which is a letter in your lawyer's office with some lawsuits on it. You ever seen that document before?
The letter C is I'm familiar with. A, I believe was, I'm not sure about that one, but I feel that I remember that was thrown out as frivolous. We hadn't even done depositions or anything on that.
Yes, ma'am.
But C, I remember that.
Okay.
B, I remember that one too. Those are the two.
Okay.
That's really the two.
And just for
A
the
is
rec-
not.
All right.
Yeah.
A, I think that's Benz v. Emory Healthcare et al. That was in DeKalb State Court, October 2010. You don't have any recollection about that, is that right?
Emory, I believe, showed their, standard of care or something. I can't remember. They just said it wasn't an issue. I never even had to meet with anyone or
Got it.
No, because it
You-
was a resident that actually saw the patient.
You were dismissed from that case, is that right?
Yes, it never became a case.
Got it. And then Townsend et al., v. Graham et al., District of Columbia, March 2007. Yes?
Yes.
You recall that?
Yes, I recall that.
Okay. And then the third one here, Rodriguez versus Whyte. That was in Maryland, or the District Court of Columbia. That was in 1999. Is that
Recall
right?
that as well.
All right. Any lawsuits other than those and your divorce?
No.
Okay. And when Angel Mullins' baby died, did you have an idea you may be sued over that baby's death?
Well, there's always a possibility in obstetrics when there's a sentinel event, so.
Yes, sir. So you knew that was likely to happen?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And you knew that on May 22nd, 2012, the day after the baby died?
I don't know if I was thinking that way, the day the baby died.
Within a few days, though?
Yeah, possibly.
Right. You, of course, understand the nature of the oath you just took.
Yes,
Penalty of perjury, you're sworn to
Yes.
tell the truth.
absolutely.
And you're here to tell the truth.
Absolutely.
Now, your group in May 2012 was Complete Women's Group, PC, true?
Yes, which comprised me only as the physician and only provider, yes.
Okay. You were the sole physician?
Sole provider, too. Nurse
Okay.
practitioner, midwife, there was none of those. There were none.
Okay. So it's just,
Just me,
oh, I'm sorry, I'm blocking
just me, yeah.
your camera.
That's okay.
So it was just you, any nurses?
That's why I just said just myself.
Oh,
And,
okay. No one
yes,
else.
uh-huh. Medical assistant, but that's it.
Okay. And who was your medical assistant?
Phyllis Bernard Sheets.
Phyllis
IS,
Bernard.
And Bernard, Bernard.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
then hyphen Sheets, SHEETS.
Yes, ma'am. And did your husband, Daryl, Dwayne Whyte, did he help in the practice at all?
Yeah, he was the practice manager and CFO.
Okay. So there were a total of three of you. There were you, the sole provider, true?
Yes,
And there was a medical assistant, that was Phyllis Bernard Sheets, true?
yes, true.
And your husband, Daryl, was a CFO and the practice manager, true?
True.
No one else employed or?
Oh, yes, yes. There we had a front office receptionist and scheduler.
Okay. Was that two people or one?
One was a biller and one was the scheduler.
Okay. Who was the biller?
Devetris, DEVETRICE,
Yes, ma'am.
Hawkins, HAWKINS.
Yes, ma'am.
And then Tanika was the, the scheduler. I think her last name is Clowers. I can't be certain on that.
Tanika,
Clowers, I think.
Clowers,
Yes.
maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyone else employed by the Complete Women's Group, PC, in 2012?
No, and that was the confusion with your paperwork that was sent to me. You had et al. And all these other doctors. I was confused
Okay. How so?
because that's what I just gave you, and you had other providers on your paperwork that you sent.
That were sued, you mean?
No,
Okay.
under the Complete Women's Group.
Yes, ma'am.
Specifically, I can't remember detail, but you had
Mm-hmm.
other physicians in the group.
Okay. Precious Braswell was never
No,
affiliated with your group.
We already know that. That's separate. All
Okay.
the other physicians,
They're separate.
yes.
Okay. And the address was 1137 Cleveland Avenue.
1136 Cleveland
Six.
Avenue.
All right. Cleveland Avenue, number 317, is that right?
Right.
And the phone number there was 404-768-8886, true?
Yes, I can remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, that was,
Zip was 30344,
yes,
and that was in Atlanta.
that was in East Point.
East Point,
Mhm.
but in Fulton County.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's in Fulton County.
Have you had any conversations with anyone regarding Angel Milan or this case, other than your lawyer?
No,
No one at all?
no.
Okay. Have you reviewed any documents other than the ones we went over earlier, Exhibits 3, 4, and 5 to your deposition regarding this case?
That would include the medical records documents as a
Yeah, we
broad.
reviewed them, yeah.
Reviewed.
I reviewed, yeah. some
Medical
of them.
records?
Well, the records here that you have in exhibits.
3, 4, and 5.
Mhm.
None other than those, though.
I can't recall.
You don't recall reviewing any other than those, true?
No, right.
Okay. Did you review a Nurse Temple's deposition?
No,
Okay. Any other depositions other than
no.
Ms. Breslin? Okay. Did you or your group have any contracts with Southfield Medical Center?
Other than staff privileges?
Yes, ma'am.
Other than?
Yes,
No,
ma'am.
no,
Well,
not that I'm aware of, but like I told you, he was the practice manager, not that I'm aware of.
okay. So if you did, he may know that, and you may not. Is that right? Your ex-husband, Daryl?
Right.
Okay. But you mean other than privileges? What you had privileges at Southfield Medical Center,
Right.
true?
Yes.
Did you have a contract regarding your privileges?
Well, not outside of what any hospital gives the
Got it.
staff doctor. You know, you don't sign anything.
Right.
I don't believe. I don't remember doing anything like that.
You just you completed their privilege package, went through the privileging committee, or as far as you
Exactly.
know, and they said, gave you a document we'll go over later. It says you're granted privileges, go to work, right?
Right.
You were to see a minimum of 13 patients a year there, is that right?
Whatever their staff requires,
Okay.
privileges, bylaws require.
All right. Did you have any contracts with Tenet Healthcare Corporation?
Upon relocating there, I did, and I can't remember the exact agreement, because they were trying to recruit doctors, so I had a recruitment contract.
Okay. When was the recruitment contract with Tenet Healthcare Corporation?
2003, it would have been in the beginning.
2000.
2003,
2003.
yeah.
And when did that contract expire, if you know?
I believe just a year, 2004.
Okay. Any other contracts or agreements with Tenet Healthcare Corporation?
Not that I recall.
Tell me about that recruitment contract with Tenet Healthcare Corporation.
I don't remember details. They were
Okay.
just trying to recruit physicians. I think they may have given some financial agreement that I can't
Incentives
remember
or-
the details about. Yeah, I can't remember because my ex-husband took care of a lot of that,
Okay.
so I would not know.
And that was in 2003. Were you working at Tenet South Fulton Medical Center?
That's when I started the Complete Women's Group, and then
Okay.
I was using the hospital. Yes.
You started using Tenet South Fulton Medical Center's hospital, or the South Fulton Medical Center, in 2003.
Yes.
Okay. And you did that until when?
Well, I've used South Fulton until 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, but that agreement was a year, I believe, till
Okay.
2004. I think. Can't remember for sure how long it was, but it was just a couple of years, if not a year.
That's fine. From 2003 until, I think it was August 8, 2012, or when you resigned your privileges at Tenet Southfield Medical Center, where did you have privileges? Southfield Medical Center, that's
And
one.
Emory Midtown,
Okay. Anywhere else?
no.
Okay. Ever had privileges at Crawford Laurel?
Well, that's Emory Midtown,
Yeah,
just
it
the
is
name
now, right?
change, yeah. Just the name change.
And you had some research show that you had some settlements. One was in January '06 for $1 million, is that right?
That was the Rodriguez inherited case.
Okay. Let me pull up. That was the
C,
the case C on Plaintiff's Exhibit 6, Rodriguez versus Whyte. Is that right?
yes,
And that was brought in 1999 and resolved in January '06. That sound about right?
yes.
Can you tell me what that case was about?
It was about another provider that admitted a young lady that just, in brief summary, needed to be delivered. And on sign out, when I came in, the baby needed to be delivered. I delivered it, and it was in a kind of compromised position when it was delivered. But it was apparent that the baby should have been delivered prior to that on the other, shift prior to mine.
Okay.
Because when I came on, I just delivered immediately.
All right. So was it your patient?
No, it was a patient of another provider.
Okay. Another physician. What was that physician's name?
I don't recall.
Okay. Well, that person's listed in the caption of the public lawsuit, right?
Well, I don't see it there. I don't
Okay,
see
you
her
don't-
name there.
So it was a
I don't know
female?
her full name, yeah.
What part of her name do you know?
Rogers?
Tosha Rogers, sound right?
I don't think Tosha is right.
Okay. Tasha, maybe?
No, I don't
Okay.
think that's right either, but Rogers.
Rogers is the last name. All right. And that was a situation where a baby needed to come out, baby didn't get delivered timely, and it was a bad outcome.
Exactly, but I, couldn't do anything about time that I wasn't there.
Right.
When I came on shift, he was delivered.
You didn't learn about the baby until you showed up.
Obviously not, yeah.
Okay. And then you
Yeah.
delivered the baby. Within how long after you showed up did you deliver the baby?
Immediately.
Okay.
When we saw the strip,
By C-section or
C-section.
what'd the strip look like?
There was a decel, a long decel.
Okay.
Prolonged decel that didn't recover.
All right. We call that a Category 3 strip,
Yes.
prolonged decels. Remember about how long, the deceleration?
Don't recall.
All right, and it looked like, anything else you recall about that case?
That's it.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
Looks like there was another one, July '09, for $500,000, $500,000.
Yeah.
And was that the Townsend versus Graham?
I guess so. I can't remember that person's name, but I'm assuming that's it. When I saw District of Columbia, that's why.
Okay,
rang
that
a
was
bell.
that was in DC. All right. And tell me what you remember about that case.
That case was so nonsensical. I guess I see how frivolous cases get
Yes, ma'am.
brought about. But that case was actually a case that the mother was not even involved in the lawsuit. The District of Columbia solely was involved. And their complaint was they were taking care of a child that was costing the District of Columbia a lot of money.
Okay.
And it really looked like a genetically or a congenital problem that wouldn't really warrant a lawsuit because we can't do anything about genetics. We're not God.
Right.
Yeah. So that was so frivolous. Even my mutual consultant, I think later on when something came up, they asked me who represented me,
Right.
and I said they did.
All right.
So that shouldn't have even been a case.
Right. And do you consider this case to be frivolous also?
I wouldn't use the word frivolous,
Yes, ma'am.
but I'm going to refrain from what I would say right now. That
What would you say?
I would say that the hospital and the nurses met the standard of care and that this baby was dead before she came in.
Was dead. She came in on May 21st. How long was the baby dead before she came in?
I can't play God, so I don't know, but I know it was a significant amount of time to cause skull and bone softening.
Okay. So 3 days or more, in your view.
Yes.
And that would make this suit against you in the hospital frivolous if a baby had already been dead for 3 days.
Well, not frivolous, probably more so, not frivolous, because there was a death. That other case was frivolous because that was a genetic abnormality.
Yes, ma'am.
So what can you do about that?
Right.
It's like, just, nonsense. But this one, even though it's not a genetic outcome, it was something that we could not do anything about
Okay. All right.
because it was done before the patient was admitted.
Because the baby had been dead for roughly 3 days before the patient was admitted. True?
I don't know. I'm not God, but I know that it was dead before it came in there.
Dead before the 21st.
Mhm.
Yes?
Yes.
Did you ever have anyone threaten your life?
And what do you mean by that, more specifically?
Just threaten your life?
Verbally, physically, what?
At all?
Okay, and can I ask you why you asked
Yeah,
that?
let me object foundation relevancy. I think
Sure.
need
Are you
to-
refusing to answer the question, or?
Well, I'm not the witness, but I just,
Well, are you instructing her
I
to refuse
think
to answer the
without some
question?
foundational link to that, I would suggest she doesn't need to answer that.
Okay, so
I
you're
think you need to
refusing to answer
connect
the
it to the
question?
case.
Well, so first we got to deal with this question. Are you refusing to answer that question?
I would recommend that you not answer it.
Okay, yes.
You're refusing to
Refusing.
answer, okay. Anyone threaten your life in 2012, the same year that you cared for Angel Mylan?
Same objection.
You're instructing her not to answer that question as well?
Yeah, I mean, if you can ask some predicate questions that somehow or another tie this into the Angel or Angel Milan case, I might let her answer it.
Okay.
Because, threatened life happens with everybody every day. So, I'm trying to understand the
I don't know
relevance
if we're,
myself.
I know my wife
Driving in
threatened
here
today,
was
Doc.
driving in here was a threat.
No, I mean,
I
someone,
think he means of,
someone threatened to kill you.
No.
Never had anybody threaten to kill you.
Say, I want to kill you, Lily?
No, threaten to kill you in any way.
again, without some link to this case, I don't know how that's relevant.
Were you in the middle of a divorce in 2012?
In the middle of a divorce?
Were you separated in 2012?
Yes.
Okay. Did your husband ever threaten you in 2012?
Let me just object. I mean, you may be getting into marital privilege issues. I'm not a domestic relations lawyer, but I don't think she has to testify to anything he said while he was her spouse. I think there'd be a spousal immunity.
Okay, that's fine. You refuse to answer that question?
You don't have to answer that.
No. Yes.
I mean, if you want to answer it and waive it, you can, but I think there's a spousal immunity.
So your spouse was also your CFO and your practice manager at the Complete Women's Group PC in 2012, true?
Yes.
Okay. And are you refusing to testify about any conversations you had with him in 2012?
Well, he wasn't the CEO or the practice manager during that time, so
Okay, what was his role
he
in 2012?
He wasn't involved at that point.
Was he still coming to your practice
No.
in 2012? Not at all.
Not during that time.
Was he permitted to come to your practice in 2012?
We were separated, so there was no point in him coming to the practice during that time.
Did you take measures to keep him from coming to your practice in 2012?
Just like we discussed before, I wasn't going to go into all that because I don't see the relevance for right now with the case at hand.
Yes, ma'am. Well, that's really, as far as what's relevant, is not really your role. It's a deposition. It's what's reasonably calculated to lead to the discovery of admissible evidence. So it's a little different standard. And I know you're not a lawyer, but I'm entitled to answer that, ask that question. I'm entitled to an answer.
Well,
So,
you may or may not be. I mean, whether she had obtained a court order or there was some restraining order against her husband, whether that exists, some higher authority, Judge Roth perhaps, might determine whether that's relevant to this lawsuit or not. So I don't know if you're entitled to answer or not. I don't know how it's relevant, or it could be reasonably calculated to lead to the discovery of admissible evidence on the face of it. If you got some predicate facts that you want to state that you think help make it relevant, I might suggest that she answer the question.
You reviewed Angel Mullen's deposition, is that right?
No, not really.
Okay. At page 190 of her deposition, Moses Kim, one of Kevin Race's colleagues, asked a question. The reason I bring that up is because in response to interrogatory number 23, asking you about any other statements that people made, you stated that on April 26, 2012, Dr. Whyte was late for her appointment. As she entered her office, she announced to her crowded room of patients that the reason she was not at her office for almost 2 weeks was because her husband was trying to kill her. Do you recall your husband trying to kill you?
No, I don't even recall the sense of what just was read.
Do you
You
recall?
said April 26th, and then you went into 2 weeks. So April 26th, if we can rewind, what happened April 26th?
Did you walk into your office and say anything akin to you'd been out of your office for almost 2 weeks because your husband was trying to kill you?
Okay, no, absolutely not.
Okay.
On April 26th,
Okay.
no.
On any other day?
I was trying to figure out who said that.
Well,
I think
first,
it's
I have
coming
a
from
question
Ms.
for you.
Milan's
Milan?
Ms.
Okay,
Milan's testimony.
April 26th, okay. I guess while I'm trying to think about that, Ms. Milan, I don't recall even seeing during that time period you're referencing. So I was just trying to figure out where she got that information. But no, I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you recall anything like that?
No.
Okay. Do you recall being absent from your practice for 2 weeks in April?
No.
Okay.
I was never absent 2 weeks from my practice.
Okay. Have you had any conversations with any nurses regarding Angel Milan?
I don't even know their numbers, no.
Okay. So you haven't had any conversations with any nurses regarding Angel Milan since May of 2012, true?
Since the time she was in.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Did you ever have a conversation with a medical examiner regarding Angel Milan?
No.
Okay. Show you what's been marked as plaintiff's exhibit number 7, which are the South Fulton Medical Center medical staff bylaws. You ever seen that document before?
I'm sure I have, probably.
Okay. All right.
Possibly. I don't know what's in it, so it could,
Well, you
it
take
may
it.
not be exact, well, I wouldn't have time to read this entire document in its entirety during this time period.
So you're saying those are not the bylaws?
I said I cannot say that with 100% guarantee. I haven't read each thing. I don't know if someone adjusted something or puts through something in there, and now I say, yes, I'm familiar with this document, so unless I have time to read that in its entirety, I can't say yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Did you ever read the South Fulton Medical Center bylaws?
Yes.
Okay. So you're familiar with them?
Yes.
All right. If you would turn to page 14. These are the responsibilities for each staff member, true? That's all right. Sorry.
Oh, I see it. I'm just looking at it.
See that? Do you see that?
I'm looking at it, yes.
Okay. And you were a member of the medical staff in 2012, true?
Yes.
Right. And one of your responsibilities pursuant to 3.6.1 was provide her patients with continuous quality, efficient care, true?
True.
And you were required to do that in May of 2012, true?
Yes.
And 3.6.4, prepare and complete in a timely manner the medical and other records, true?
True.
And you prepared medical records regarding Angel Milam, true?
Yes.
You agree it's important to be truthful in the medical records, true?
Absolutely.
It's absolutely imperative that medical records be accurate, true,
Yes.
and truthful.
Yeah.
And you learn that throughout medical school and your training, true?
Right.
And that's because someone might be seeing one of your patients when you're not there, and they'll need to rely on that medical record to know what's going on with that patient, true?
Absolutely.
And you might be seeing a patient when someone else is not present, and you'll be relying on the medical record for the same reasons, true?
True.
And then 3.6.7, abide by the clinical principles of the profession as expressed by the American Medical Association, true?
True.
The American Dental Association or the American Podiatric Medical Association as amended.
Well, mine would be the American Medical,
Right,
so we've already
right,
said
right,
that,
right.
yeah.
5.6.8, comply with all applicable laws and regulations, true?
3 point, yeah. Mhm.
Yes?
Yes.
5.6.8.
3.6.8.
I'm sorry, 3.6.8, thank you. These guys, they look out for me like that. 3.6.10, be available to respond in a timely fashion in an urgent situation, true?
True.
And in May of 2012, you were available to respond in a timely fashion to an urgent situation, true?
Absolutely.
Where did you live in May of 2012?
41, the Atlantic.
The Atlantic.
I believe it was there.
Downtown?
Or no, I moved there in September or August. So I must have been, I knew I was off of Camp Creek
Okay.
then, Camp Creek.
Do you remember the address?
Walton Crossing probably, or, let me see, May. I can't recall.
Okay.
I'm sorry. 'Cause we made several moves before, a couple moves
Okay.
before this time now.
As best as you can remember, May of 2012, you would have been on Walters Crossing off Camp Creek.
Maybe
Parkway.
not Walton Crossing, but somewhere near there. Or,
You mind spelling that?
Camp Creek?
No, ma'am, the crossing part.
No, the
or
Walton Crossing, I wasn't there now that I'm able to recollect. I was not there.
Okay. Where
I
you-
can't remember exactly where, because it was a transitional move.
Okay.
So can't remember. But, okay.
Go ahead.
Can't
No
remember.
idea where you were living in May of 2012.
Well, I don't know, but it was obviously close enough for me to get to the hospital in 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
You were within 20 minutes in May of 2012.
Okay.
Is that right?
Probably within 30, but I got to the hospital in 20 minutes, so.
In
within
Angel
20
Milam's
minutes.
case.
Yes,
Okay.
Okay.
And where were you on May 21st, the day before? You didn't see Angel Milam that day, true?
That day?
On May 21st, 2012, you did not see Angel Milam, true?
The day she came in.
Right.
Okay. Where were you that day?
Who knows? I don't recall.
Okay, were you working that day?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. You didn't go to Southfield Medical Center on May 21st, 2012.
I don't recall.
Did you go to Emory Midtown that day?
Can't recall.
Okay. If you would turn to page 15 of the bylaws. This principles of partnership, do you recall reading that at some time in the past?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
The physicians and the hospital health system staff recognize their considerable interdependence. You would agree with that, true?
Yes.
You rely on nurses at
Right.
Southwood Medical Center. You relied on nurses at Southwood Medical Center in May of 2012, true?
Right,
They relied on you, true?
right.
And if there were a problem with an expectant mother, you would expect them to tell you, true?
Right.
You would want them to give you all the details, true?
Mhm.
Yes?
Yes,
And that would certainly include an issue with a fetal monitoring strip, true?
right,
If a strip were non-reassuring, you would expect the nurses to tell you that, true?
right,
You wouldn't expect a nurse to tell you that a baby had a baseline heart rate of 130 to 140 if it was in fact a non-reassuring strip, true?
Object
right.
to the form.
And you wouldn't expect, go ahead.
I just objected to the form of the question.
Could you read my question back,
I
please?
mean, a fetal heart rate of 130 to 140 doesn't mean it's reassuring, non-reassuring.
That's not what I said.
Well, we'll see what you said.
It'll be fine.
I was
It'll
trying to limit my objection so you didn't fuss about it.
be- You can object all you want, man. Yeah, that ain't gonna change anything.
You wouldn't expect a nurse to tell you that a baby had a baseline heart rate of 130 to 140 if it was in fact a non-reassuring strip, true?
So to rephrase the question.
Yes, ma'am.
I wouldn't expect a nurse to omit a worrisome strip.
Right.
Exactly.
Because if a nurse omitted a worrisome strip, you wouldn't have all the information you needed to make a decision about whether to go to the hospital,
And
true?
that wasn't done, right.
Okay, what wasn't done?
Well, continue, I'm sorry. I was saying in this case, I don't recall that being a situation.
You don't recall what?
That, what you just said, someone omitting to tell me that there was a worrisome strip.
Okay. In Angel Mullen's case, you think that the strips were reassuring the entire time she was in the hospital?
Not totally reassuring, but when someone is dehydrated, a lot of times we'll give them time to hydrate adequately and then just reassess.
Yes, ma'am.
And actually, the biophysical would trump that. So it was 6/10, I believe, when she came in, which the biophysical profile, which could be repeated within a 12 to 24 hour period, or so, and just reassess the patient at that time.
The biophysical profile would trump what?
It would. Since she just had the biophysical profile and she came over and you were focusing on the strips, because of her biophysical profile not looking ominous, like saying something like 4 or less over 10, then I would leave the strip long as there is no decel and wait to see what the hydration would do about reactivity and beat-to-beat variability.
So
Hold on.
your testimony is that biophysical.
Was she finished?
You cut her off.
You're not finished?
No, but I can.
Well, no, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay. No, just to make it kind of simple, because I know you're not
I'm
a
a
doctor
simple
either.
man.
Yeah. The biophysical profile
Yes, ma'am.
actually includes the fetal heart rate assessment as well, because it includes a non-stress test. So
Well,
I
it
would.
doesn't always include a non-stress test, does it?
It does. A biophysical
Cutting her
does.
off.
Okay.
A
Go ahead.
biophysical profile does. Now, if you're talking about a modified, then it doesn't. But a
Right.
biophysical profile includes an assessment of the fetal heart rate. So if the
And to get to-
patient just came from the perinatology office and we saw that there was not an ominous biophysical, then that would take precedence over everything while we're hydrating her and waiting to see what the reactivity is without a decel being present, which there was no decel on the strips from the hospital.
Okay. Well, you can't tell whether there's a decel if there's no strip, true?
Oh, well, yeah, in that case, yes. But we had strips that I
Right.
saw some of.
So you said the biophysical profile trumps the strip, true?
The biophysical profile in this situation
Yes, ma'am.
was the primary focus.
Okay, and not the strips, true?
The strips were included, but they were not to be regarded as superior to the whole assessment in its totality.
But the strips were not the primary focus, true?
They were not to be considered without the biophysical profile for a complete assessment of the fetus.
Okay. So your testimony is you can have a biophysical profile of 6 out of 10 and unexpected mother that's 36 weeks, 6 days. And if you have a non-reassuring strip over the course of that evening, the biophysical profile
Not if
takes
you have
precedence.
a non-reassuring strip. Not if you have a non-reassuring strip after a prolonged non-stress test, no.
Okay. Were the strips in Angel Mullen's case, I know you reviewed the Southwood Medical Center record, were her strips reassuring or not reassuring?
Initially, they were non-reassuring from a beat-to-beat variability standpoint. There's several ways of reading it. If you saw a D cell, that non-reassuring would be a little bit more significant than the beat-to-beat variability immediately, because the experience is majority of pregnant moms are dehydrated. So once they're hydrated, the strip can take a turn in a more positive direction. So you would not act immediately when you see a person placed on a monitor for half an hour, and say, this doesn't look good, let me cut.
So you can let a non-reassuring strip
It's
go
not
for,
it's
let
not
me let me
non-reassuring.
finish now.
Okay.
You can let a non-reassuring strip go for an hour to wait and see whether the patient's adequately hydrated, true?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
And I guess I would classify, change how you're describing it, because you're just saying like reassuring, non-reassuring. But there is a gray zone in between
Okay.
where it's not necessarily non-reassuring, it's just not what we want to see just yet.
Okay. What's a
Okay.
category 1 strip?
That's when they have accelerations that's a reactive NST.
And what type of accelerations?
Okay, well, there's a 20-minute period that we look at, and you wait to see a baseline, and you have to have 15 beats above the baseline for 15 seconds, at least 2 of them in 20 minutes.
Okay. What's a category 2 strip?
The category 2 strip will not meet that, and it
Why
won't
is
be a
that?
D-cell, because it won't be 15 beats above the baseline for 15 seconds in a
Okay.
20-minute period.
All right. Is a category 2 strip a reassuring strip?
It's not reassuring, but it's not reassuring like, it's not non-reassuring like a category 3. So you have a category 2 and you got a category 3, and they're both non-reassuring.
Right.
But they tell you 2 pieces of
Got
information. So that's my point. So category 2 is like a gray area.
Okay. Both category 2 and category 3, you agree, are non-reassuring strips, true?
Yes, and it's,
Okay.
yes, that's what you're, yeah,
But they tell you different things, true?
yes.
You define for us what a, did you just define a category 2 strip?
Yeah, category 2 is not meeting the qualification or the criteria of
Right.
category 1. And
And
then category 3 is looking ominous. They may have some details.
Right. Okay. All right. We were looking at page 15 of the bylaws,
She's got it.
and we were looking at the principles of partnership. And it reads here that it's important, well, you acknowledge for their success in competing in the marketplace and their ability jointly to deliver high-quality health care depend in large part upon their ability to communicate well, collaborate effectively, and work as a team to optimize and monitor outcomes. True?
Yes. And
You agree it's important to communicate well? True. It's important to you for nurses to communicate well what's going on in the hospital. True. You didn't perform a physical exam on Angel Mullen on May 21st, 2012. True?
when I came in.
Yes, ma'am, but you didn't come in on the 21st. You didn't come in until the 22nd.
Okay.
True?
I don't recall anything else, yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, you can't possibly perform a physical examination on a patient if you're not there.
Right.
True?
Yes.
Okay, so you did not perform a physical examination of Angel Mylan on May 21st, 2012, true?
True.
Collaborate effectively and work as a team to optimize and monitor outcomes, true?
True.
You agree with that? And you want to optimize outcomes, true?
True.
Last thing you want to see is a baby die, true?
True.
Especially if it's needless, right?
You're right.
Okay. If you turn on over to page 19 of just Exhibit 7, which are the bylaws. Thank you. If you look at that 4.2.2 duties, paragraph 5, it reads that all active staff members, and you were an active staff member in 2012, true?
True.
Are expected to admit and or participate significantly in the care of a minimum of 13 patients per calendar year, true?
True.
So it was your understanding that South Fulton Medical Center expected you to see 13 of your patients per year at their hospital, true?
I really never heard that number.
Okay. All right.
Some of this looks a little different. So.
The
Yes.
patients that you didn't see at South Fulton Medical Center, you saw before the name change at Crawford Long and after the name change at Emory Midtown, true?
What was the first part of the question? I saw how many?
Yeah. The patients that you did not see at South Fulton Medical Center.
Right,
or
was seen at the other hospital.
Okay, and by the other hospital, we mean Crawford Long until the name changed to Emory Midtown, true?
True.
And you saw your Medicaid patients at South Fulton Medical Center and your private pay patients at Crawford Long or Emory Midtown, true?
I'll restate the question. I saw Medicaid, commercial at both hospitals.
Okay.
Okay.
Where did you see your private pay or insurance pay patients?
Both hospitals, wherever they chose to go.
Okay.
Because it's their health care, and they can choose where they wish to go.
Okay. Did you prefer one hospital over the other?
Not really. I'm closer to South Fulton.
Okay.
It's convenient.
So you preferred South Fulton over,
Both of them were fine with me.
okay. Two rules to the. You guys okay on time? You want to take a break or you good?
Good?
No, we're good.
Good.
I mean, I'm good.
What's that?
I'm fine.
Okay. Show you what's been marked as Exhibit 8. What's your South Fulton Medical Center rules and regulations?
Here you go.
Sure. Actually, I want to ask you another question about one more question about the bylaws. If you turn to page 48. Back to the rules and regulations, page 10, please. Do you see that? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Rules and Regulations, page 10, 2.4.6 reads physician's responsibilities. Do you see that?
Yes.
And these rules and regulations, you've reviewed those before.
I'm sure.
Okay. And 2.4.6 deals with physician's responsibilities in the event of a patient death. And of course, Angel Mullins' baby, that was a patient death, true?
Yes.
So these rules would have applied to that case.
Absolutely.
In the event of a patient death, it is the responsibility of the attending physician, that was you, true, the attending
The
physician?
attending physician of the fetus was the neonatologist who was present intra-op. That
Who
would
was what?
pronounce- Who was present intraoperatively in the OR to pronounce the patient dead.
That's Dr. Onasanya?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And that was the moment the baby was born, true?
Yes, when the baby's born, it's then the responsibility of the neonatologist.
Right. But prior to the baby's birth, your responsibility is both the mother and the baby, true?
True, absolutely.
Okay. So these physician's responsibilities regarding the patient death, those are not your responsibilities, those would have been Dr. Onasanya's?
In the case of the pronouncing death, because pronouncing death is when you have access to the body.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what I'm referring to. When the baby was delivered,
Yes, ma'am.
when someone were to pronounce the baby or the fetus dead, that would be the neonatologist.
Okay.
And they were present.
You prepared and signed the death certificate, though, true?
I believe we both do. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, I do from the fetal standpoint. Because that's a hindsight. That's kind of two separate issues, apples and oranges. Because when we went in, we didn't know the baby had been dead. So that form that you saw was to say there was a death prior to delivery, or a death at delivery, or whatever.
Okay.
But he comes in afterwards, because obviously they wouldn't have intubated the baby and stuff if they, that fetal death certificate was signed. Because a fetus is no longer a fetus when they're an infant, once they're born.
Right.
So there's some gray zone there.
Okay.
Okay.
So back to, I guess, my question, the physician's responsibilities, this 2.4.6 on page 10 of Exhibit 8, the rules and regulations. In the event of a patient death, it is the responsibility of the attending physician or his physician designee to pronounce the patient dead. And you said, in this case, that was Dr. Onasanya's role,
He was
true?
present, yes.
Okay. Inform the family, was that also Dr. Onasanya's?
Both of ours.
Both of you, okay. Because the mother was your
Because I
patient.
delivered, I was the surgeon.
Got it. And then below that, complete the certificate of death, state of Georgia form, true?
Yes.
And you did that, true?
Yes.
Notify administration and the county medical examiner or coroner of the following types of deaths. Did you notify the administration and the county medical examiner or coroner of the baby's death?
Absolutely not. The hospital has people in place for that.
The hospital
The
what?
hospital has people in place to do that after we fill out the necessary paperwork.
Okay. So although this says that's a physician's responsibility, that was not your responsibility.
I don't think that's what they mean. They just mean the paperwork was constructed so that anybody can make the call.
Yes, ma'am. But you agree that either the medical examiner or coroner needed to be advised of this baby's death, true?
However their policy is. I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, well, it goes on to read subpart 5 under 2.4.6, death of any child ages birth through 17.
Right,
True?
we fill out the form to answer these questions that you're reading.
Yes, ma'am.
But notification is not done by the physician. It's almost like, for example, she's your paralegal, so she does your. She's your
my
right
godsend.
hand.
She's
So the
my left
hospital is
hand,
the
right
right
hand.
hand of physician.
Okay.
We don't do all of the clerical and telephone calls and et cetera.
Got
We
it.
could possibly do that and then do our job real well.
Got it. So while the medical examiner ought to have been advised of this baby's death, that was not your job, that was somebody else in the hospital.
Right, I just fill out the paperwork
Got it.
so that they can get rolling.
Got it. Okay. On to 2.4.7 on page 11, dealing with autopsies. You see that on the next page?
Yes, I see it.
Yes, ma'am. It reads, autopsies, the medical staff shall attempt to obtain permission for an autopsy in all deaths that meet any of the following criteria, true?
Absolutely.
Okay, and did you attempt to obtain permission for an autopsy in this case?
Absolutely, like we do with every death.
Okay. And you would have wanted an autopsy in this case because down below it says all obstetric deaths and all neonatal and pediatric deaths, true?
Okay, absolutely not.
Okay.
You just threw something in there that was a kind of a tongue twister.
Okay.
You said I would have wanted an autopsy. First of all, I'm not the patient,
Yes, ma'am.
so
So what?
I would not have formed an opinion about an autopsy. That's solely the patient's right to
Okay.
get an autopsy or not to.
Right.
As we do at Emory Midtown.
Yes, ma'am.
We don't go in there, we don't influence, we don't put our bias, we don't put our opinion. We simply ask them, do you want an autopsy? And if they don't know or understand what an autopsy is, do you want some investigation about how your fetus died?
Yes, ma'am. And you
Now,
ask
a lot
Angel.
of times, that's a paid thing. And
Okay.
actually, it was at South Fulton as well.
Okay.
So the patient will say no. And that's just what Angel Milan said. She said no.
So you asked Angel Milan whether she wanted an autopsy.
And she
true?
signed it, I believe. Yeah, she signed, the paperwork should have her signature saying she didn't want it unless there was something provided after that showed else something else.
Okay. So I want to make sure. You asked Angel Milan after her baby died whether she wanted an autopsy, true?
Absolutely. That was part of the paperwork. You just stated to be the medical examiner and coroner. That's all in the packet.
Okay.
And it's just done like robotically done.
Got it. Okay. And what did Angel, how did she respond when you asked her about the autopsy?
The same way she responded in the recovery room when she was like we always do as surgeons. We say, look, this is what we found.
Yes, ma'am.
You want to tell me about it? And she said that when she had come in, she stated she felt fetal movement, but she hadn't felt fetal movement for a week, in fact. So she said that she did not want an autopsy
Okay.
because that sounded to me like she knew her fetus was dead beforehand.
Okay. So you asked Angel Milan whether she wanted an autopsy, and she told you no. True?
She signed to say no.
Yes, ma'am.
She
What-
signed paperwork. There's a section that says refusal, and she signed it.
Okay. So when you asked her whether she wanted an autopsy, she told you no. True?
She told me, and she signed no.
She told.
She did both. She
Okay.
told me, and she signed like she is was directed to do.
She-
By the policies.
All right.
They can't just say no. They have to sign.
Okay.
There's a part to say yes, I want one, and there's a part to say I refuse. She signed the refusal.
Okay. She both told you she did not want an autopsy, and she signed stating she did not want an autopsy.
Absolutely.
True? Okay.
The paperwork that I did that day, she signed refusal.
Yes, ma'am. She also told you that there had been no fetal movement for a week. True?
3 days, a week, something like that. I can't recall what.
Okay. And back to what we were talking about a moment ago, autopsies medical staff shall attempt to obtain permission for an autopsy in all deaths that meet any of the following criteria, and two of those criteria are all obstetric deaths and all neonatal and pediatric deaths, and one of those would have applied here. True?
Obtain permission.
Yes, ma'am.
That doesn't mean perform. So we all obtained permission, just like I stated to you before.
Right. But
Permission was not granted because she refused.
Right, but permission was sought pursuant to 2.4.7 because this rule applies to all obstetric deaths and all neonatal and pediatric deaths. True?
Right, sought through the form, just asking them.
Got it. You ever observed an autopsy?
Never.
Okay.
Not that I recall.
I don't know if you see on page 12, physicians are encouraged to observe autopsies, just not your.
Results of autopsies, not the autopsy.
Well, if you look, maybe I misread this. If you look at page 12 up toward the top. that
Yeah, I'm
part.
looking up at the top.
Okay. It says, for educational purposes, physicians are encouraged to observe autopsies. You see that?
So educational purposes, I would assume would go with my training, not when I'm an
I don't
attendant. I don't know, attendant.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You've never observed one.
Not as an attending.
Okay. Have you ever observed one?
I'm sure I have.
Okay. All right. Any idea why the hospital in this case did not contact the medical examiner regarding the baby's death?
Object to the
I
form.
don't,
No idea. That's not your role. That's somebody else in the hospital's role. Whose role in the hospital would that be?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Any idea why someone may have, even though knowing what happened, chose not to let the medical examiner know about it?
Object to the form.
Let me answer.
They object.
You
Well,
can
you
answer.
still
Right,
answer.
No.
You can answer. We'll object. You just answer the best you know. Sometimes we object for legal
Oh, I
purposes.
thought that means I don't need to.
No, I'll tell you when there's one you shouldn't answer.
You want him to read it back for you?
Yeah, so why they would not contact the medical examiner? Just because they're human?
Okay. They just made a mistake?
I don't know, I guess. I mean,
Okay.
we don't do everything, we forget things sometimes.
Okay. I guess we can start with some of the.
If you're moving on to another, usually take a
Sit. What is that? I'm sorry.
We're moving on to something else, we'll take a quick break.
Okay.
Yes, I can check.